Good day. I am pre-recording these lectures this morning precisely because I am in the clinic on duty today. Nevertheless, I hope that the discussions this afternoon made a lot of sense to you, especially in the construction or in the writing of the presentation and analysis of data. As you would see, we've emphasized always that the chapter 4 is the exact replica of the chapter 2. And that's the reason why we are also asking you to remove all the unnecessary data in chapter 2 that are not related to your statement of the problem. The difference between chapter 2 and chapter 4 is that chapter 2 is in fact generic and chapter 4 is in fact branded. And I hope that distinction sticks with you as you write the paper. Now let's look at the 5th chapter. The 5th chapter is simply summary, conclusion, and recommendations. This is technically the shortest chapter. And yes, you've heard me right. This is the shortest chapter. The longest chapter is supposedly your chapter 4. Everything that you have to say in the paper about the Air Force, about their concepts and the like should be in chapter 4. The second longest is chapter 2 because it provides the theoretical support to your statement of the problem. And the third longest is your background of the study precisely because there you create the need for the study. That means then that the fourth chapter, almost close to the shortest, is in fact your chapter 3. But do not undermine the value of chapter 3 because chapter 3 is the most technical of all chapters. Nevertheless, when we look at summary recommendations and conclusions and recommendations, we still need to learn a lot about how to write this one. So let's look at the concluding chapter, and this is where it becomes interesting. This is the last chapter in your research report, and it is the summary, conclusion, and recommendations. In the summary, we reiterate the general problem, the specific problems, the hypothesis, the research design, and the salient findings presented in chapter 4. In fact, the first 1, 2, 3, 4 points, you only address sparsely, almost in the introductory paragraph to your summary. But the most important one is actually the summary of the salient findings presented in chapter 4. That's what the summary is about. So the summary of the salient findings, as we've said, must have a one-to-one correspondence with the stated problems. That means you have to number the summary, number the conclusions, number the recommendations. If you have 3 problems, 1, 2, 3. If you have dimensions, 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, like that. No? So the summary simply reiterates the findings of the study. So for example, what is the status of air defense? Then you can answer it directly. The status of air defense is low, for example. That's the summary of the findings. It presents in a nutshell, in a nutshell, everything that needs to be said about the statement of the problem. And we're not talking about the general statement of the problem. We're talking about the specific statements of the problem. And that's the reason why when you write the summary, conclusion, and recommendation, you have to number it accordingly also. 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, 3A, 3B. So that you are able to represent the salient findings of the study. Now, let's go to the conclusion. The summary is not the conclusion. These are two different things you have to understand. Summary, you simply report what you discovered. Conclusion is what you can generalize based on the summary. So if the summary says the airstrike capability is low, the next question is, so what? No? So look, the conclusions are the generalizations derived from the summarized findings. These are not repetitions of the findings, so you are not supposed to repeat a sentence or two at the same time, but are general statements that answer the stated problems. There should again be a one-to-one correspondence of the problems with the findings and with the conclusion. So take note, the one-to-one is more than emphasized. To arrive at the conclusion, simply look at the findings and ask yourself, so what? The conclusion is also the place for the implications, just in case, which means that those are the findings. What then? So what? So what? That's the most important part. Okay? So what? The recommendation. So this is just 3 sections, no? 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, no? Summary 5.1, conclusion 5.2, recommendation 5.3. But take note of these recommendations. Recommendations are doable action steps that would address the problems without which the research would not be meaningful at all. Research, as you understand, is a cyclic process, no? Paikot-ikot. A cyclic process of posing problems and addressing these problems in a rational and systematic manner. So the recommendations of the study would now be responsible in proposing interventions to address the problems, which basically means, what now if we discovered that the airstrike capability is low? It's like that. Those are the things we need to take into consideration. What now? What will happen? And things like that. These are the things that we need to take into consideration. Okay? So now, wait, it says here the recommendations can be expounded and that will constitute the APP. Technically, your doable action steps will fall in chapter 6. But also, just a word on chapter 6. No? Chapter 6, the length of which is like your chapter 3 or sometimes your chapter 1. No? But chapter 6 is an enlargement. No? Is drawn from, if you will, an enlargement of your problem number 3 answers, your prescriptions. So since the prescriptions are direct responses to identify, to the evaluate section, they are now turned into concrete projects with concrete management planning and strategic planning and the like. And these will constitute your chapter 6. I say that because you might say, but we don't have tools yet for management and things like that. But you should not forget that Dr. Ed and Dr. Atienza, if I'm not mistaken, should actually follow the course almost immediately, and they can give you instructions on provide you with tools that will allow you to write your chapter 6. Use what they taught. Okay? So we said to arrive at a recommendation, so if there are 1A, 2B, so you can say 1AI, 1AII. If you have many recommendations, just make sure that these recommendations do not carry, later on you'd see, commands or imperatives, but are suggestive and are simple and down to earth. Okay? So to arrive at a recommendation, simply look at the conclusion and ask yourself, what now? What now after we do this? What now after we do that? In order for the findings of your research to have a significant impact in addressing the problems, the recommendation should be doable. No, the key there is doability. Is it doable? So avoid the use of prescriptive words such as should or must or have to. Instead, formulate the action steps on how the problem should, must, or have to be addressed. No, so you, instead of telling them you should do this, you must have this, or have to do this, ganon, don't use those terms, please. Instead, demonstrate, provide steps, formulate action steps on how the problem should, must, or have to be addressed. And that's also very important. The succeeding slides that will follow are mere focusing on the conclusion. Why conclusion? Because the findings of the study has value only to the extent that we are able to draw generalizations and or implications based on the findings that we have. This is the time we are again forced to theorize, no, to think deeply about the findings of the study. And it's easy to say that it is low, that the findings of the study is that it's low and things like that. But it's very important that we are also clarified how they are related to each other in any way. Okay? So let's look at that conclusion. So the conclusion, you have to understand, is intended to help the reader understand why your research should matter to them after they have finished reading your paper. It's the so what. So what if they discovered this? So what if they discovered that? It's that answer to that question, so what? Okay? So a conclusion, pay attention, it's not merely a summary of your points or a restatement of your research problem, but a synthesis of key points. It shows, determines, for example, what the key findings are and what it means. For most researchers, one well-developed paragraph is sufficient for a problem statement for a conclusion. Although in some cases, 2 or 3 paragraphs conclusion may be required. And we're talking here about per SOP. But don't belabor the obvious, no? So avoid phrases like in conclusion or in summary or in closing. Now, these phrases can be useful. Yes, we don't deny that. Even welcomed in oral presentations. But readers can see by the remaining pages, by the section headings, when the essay or the research paper is about to end. You'll simply irritate your reader if you belabor the obvious na conclusion na sabi mo pa to conclude, parang hindi mo na kailangang sabihin. Okay? Now, another thing. Some people will open new doors in the summary, conclusion, and recommendations. You can only open new doors in the recommendation. Because in the recommendation, if you have 3 problem statements, 1, 2, 3, you are required to have a 4th recommendation. And it's a recommendation for further studies where you suggest what else the other incoming researchers can do that you were not able to do. Don't surprise the reader with new information in your conclusion. No, never do that. If it's a new conclusion, if it's a conclusion, you do not share something new, no, na new. Don't do that. Okay? So if you have a discussion, new information to present, add it in the discussion part or other appropriate sections in the paper. That's why that's why it's even the shortest, because you're not opening any other information except the fact that you are already pointing to except the fact that you're already pointing to the closure, di ba? So the only addition, tumatanong yung isip ko. The only new thing you can add is actually the recommendation section. That is number 4 if you have 3 problems, and it's a recommendation for further research. Note that although no actual new information is introduced, the conclusion is where you offer your most original contribution in the paper. Do not repeat a sentence in the thesis. I always told you that. Never repeat a chapter, a sentence in the thesis. That's a no-no, I'll tell you already. And it's being a no-no is based on the fact that if you have new ideas, it should be inserted in chapter 4 or in any other sections. Okay? No, do not repeat the information because that is like insulting your reader, telling the reader you did not understand it the first time I said it, so I'm repeating it here again. Do not do that. Do not do that. No 2 sentences, as much as possible, should be present in the paper. Okay? No 2 exact sentences should be present in the paper. Okay? So remember, the conclusion is where you describe the value of your research. It's where you describe the value of your research, demonstrate your understanding of the material that you presented, and also locate your findings within the larger larger context of scholarship on the topic. No? So those are very important sections also. Now, what are the importance of a good conclusion? Well, a well-written conclusion provides you with several important opportunities to demonstrate your overall understanding of the research problem to the reader. No? So that's what a well-written conclusion provides. So presenting the last word on the issues you raise in your paper. So just introduction, just as the introduction gives a first impression to your reader, the conclusion, you have to understand, also offers a chance to leave a lasting impression. So do these, for example, by highlighting key points in your analysis or even key points in your findings. No? So presenting the last word on the issues you've raised in your paper. Secondly, summarizing your thoughts and conveying the larger implications of your study. So the conclusion is an opportunity to succinctly answer the so what question by placing the study within the context of past research about the topic you've investigated. This is also the time you demonstrate the importance of your ideas. So don't be shy. The conclusion offers you a chance to elaborate on the significance of your findings. And lastly, introducing possible new or expanded way of thinking about the research problem. So this does not refer to introducing new information, which should be avoided, as we've said, but to offer new insight and creative approaches for framing or contextualizing the research problem based on the results of your study. So these 3 things are very important. Of course, this came from the Writing Center of the University of North Carolina, and it comes from a very interesting book, no, which is about the this is about the 12 things about 12 steps to writing an effective conclusion. I tried clicking it, but it led me to a page. No. So what are the general rules? Let's just go through them. So when writing the conclusion, follow these general rules. 1, state your conclusion as well as your findings and recommendations, as well as the entire paper for that matter, in clear, simple language. clear, simple language. No? So that means if what you're saying is not clear to you, it will also not be clear to your audience, to your panel. So make sure that you understood what you're talking about. That's why I always see, for example, no, many of you are saying the 905th medevac capability. Example lang. You do not put the unit at the beginning of the title. You put the capability first. So it should have been medevac capability of the 205th, like that. Not the 205th medevac capability. Don't do that. So it should be the medevac capability of the 205th, something like that. So when you write your papers, do not begin first with the unit at hand. Begin with the concept. That's how you write the paper, for God's sake. You begin first with the concept, you analyze the dimensions of the concept before you just apply it to the population and local in chapter 3. So do it that way, no? So clear, simple languages. So in the interview guide, I forgot to tell you a while ago, if the person spoke in Filipino, you have to cite it in Filipino. And then almost immediately after citing it in Filipino, mention the English translation. That's how it's done. So you can actually record your respondents as they speak in Filipino, but almost immediately you if they speak in Filipino, transcribe it in Filipino, and then show the English translation. Do not translate it as if they said it in English, even if they said it in Filipino. Okay? So, when writing your conclusion, general rules, state it in clear, simple language. Second, do not simply reiterate your results or the discussion. Do not simply repeat the things you've already said. Think about it the other way. That's what he's saying here. Why can't I repeat the statements the way I was told? No? Because whether you like it or not, as I said, that's an insult to the reader, telling the reader, maybe you didn't understand the first time I said it, and so I'm repeating it again, which is a no-no, di ba? Sorry, I just needled myself. I'm still having headaches, so I hope you understand why there are pauses every so often. So do not simply reiterate your results or the discussions. Indicate opportunities for future research. We've seen that in the recommendations, as I've said. And as long as you haven't already done so in the discussion section of your paper, just say why this is a possible avenue for further research and what else can be done about it. No? Okay, do not forget that. Now, remember, the function of your paper's conclusion is to reiterate the main argument. I never spoke about the argument in our discussion, but actually the argument is your general statement of the problem, which is stated in declarative form. No, I still saw a few students who wrote their general statement of the problem in question form. But I'd like to reiterate that I did say that it should have been written in declarative form, no? And if it's stated already in declarative form, then you understand that it is already an argument form. So the conclusion reminds the reader of the strengths of your main argument and reiterates the most important evidence supporting those arguments. So make sure, however, that your conclusion is not simply repetitive of the summary of the findings, because this reduces the impact of your arguments that you have developed in the entire paper. Well, it says essay, but actually, a thesis paper is an extended essay. It's a prolonged essay, in fact. Next, consider the following points to help ensure your conclusion is appropriate. if the argument or point of your paper is complex, you may need to summarize the argument for your reader. If prior to your conclusion, you have not yet explained the significance of your findings, which is impossible, of course, because you should have done that in the interpretation part or even in the summary part, or if you are proceeding inductively for qualitative research, use the end of the paper to describe your main points and explain their significance. But actually, the design of the commandant's paper allows you to do this section as early as chapter 4. Next, move from a detailed to a general level of consideration that returns the topic to the context provided by the introduction or within a new context that emerges from the data. That is the third bullet point, is very important. Remember, I told you before, the thesis is like a bow tie. So the other end of the bow tie is the introduction. At the end of the paper, when you're already writing your conclusion, you also need to expand at that level of the introduction. So you need to be able to show how your findings will now help address the background of the study or the problems in the background of the study. That way, the other end of the bow tie is actually the same as the other end of the bow tie. Okay? Next. The conclusion also provides a place for you to persuasively and succinctly restate your research problem, given that the reader has now been presented with all the information about the topic. So, depending on the discipline that you are in, the concluding paragraph may contain reflections on the evidence presented or on the essay's central research problem, which, as I said, you are able to address only by doing it one-to-one, diba? However, the nature of being introspective about the research you have done will depend on the topic and whether your professor wants you to express your observations this way, or your panel, whether they agree that it should be that way. No? Note, don't delve in idle speculation. Being introspective means looking within yourself as an author to try and understand an issue more deeply, not to guess at possible outcomes. No? So when you look at the conclusion, base everything that you conclude on the findings, on the summary of the findings, on empirical data. Never do it in a way that you are actually answering your conclusion separate from the data. No? Remember, the conclusion is at the middle of that chapter. Summary, conclusion, and recommendation for a reason. And it's there because you have to focus very intently on what is being asked of you. So how do we develop a compelling conclusion? So strategies that can help you move beyond merely summarizing the key points of your research paper may include the following. 1, warn. So if your essay deals with a contemporary problem, warn your readers of the possible consequences of not attending to the problem. Now, why is it important to consider the problem? Ganon. Kailangan makita nyo, masabi nyo, bakit mahalaga na tignan yung problemang yan? 2, recommend. In the recommendation section, you have to recommend a specific course or courses of actions. 3, cite. Cite a relevant quotation or an expert opinion to lend authority to the conclusion you have reached. This is a good place to look in research from your literature review. You can cite at this point, but remember, if you cite, you have to process what the citation. You have to show how the citation is related to your findings. You have to cite how the citation is related to this problem or that problem. You cannot magic this. You cannot magic this. And I'm saying this one because sometimes people just magic it. And no, please do not magic this. And then restate a key statistical fact in the summary or visual image to drive home the ultimate point of the paper. So if your discipline encourages personal reflection, I think in chapter 6 is a section where you can actually include your personal reflection, illustrate your concluding point with a relevant narrative drawn from your own life experiences, return to an anecdote, an example, or a quotation that you introduced in your introduction. In fact, it's better if the citation that you cite comes from the interview script, but add further insight that is derived from the findings of your study. So use your interpretation of results to reframe it in new ways. And then provide a take-home message in the form of a strong, sufficient statement that you want the reader to remember about your study. So these are the things you have to pay attention to. What are the things that you have to avoid? One, failure to be concise. The conclusion section should be concise and straight to the point. Conclusions that are too long often have unnecessary detail, and the conclusion section is not the place for details about your methodology or about your results. Although you should give a summary of what was learned from your research, this summary should be relatively brief. Sabi nila, if it's brief, it has to be short enough to cover the essentials, and long enough to cover the essentials, short enough to keep things exciting. Since the emphasis is the conclusion, so do not forget that if you wanted to summarize everything, you put that in the summary. In the conclusion, the emphasis more is on your implications, evaluations, insight. Now, what is your insight? That's what you have to pay attention along those lines. Okay? Next, failure to comment on larger, more significant issues. So in the introduction, your task was to move from general to specific. Remember that, no? From the field of study to your research problem. However, in the conclusion, your task is to move from the specific, your research problem, back to the general, your field. That is how your research contributes new understanding or fills an important gap in the literature. In other words, the conclusion is where you place your research within the larger context, and that will play a very important role in how you understand the role, or what you understand the role of the paper to be. Okay? Next. Failure to reveal problems and negative results. Negative aspects of the research process should never be ignored. No? Do not forget that. Should never be ignored. Problems, drawbacks, challenges encountered during your study should be included as a way of qualifying your overall conclusions. If you encountered negative results, findings that are validated outside the research context in which they were generated, you must report them in the results section of your paper. So do not forget that, no? Even if you're already concluding, if you recognize that there is something that must be put in the chapter 4, you put it in chapter 4. In the conclusion, use the negative results as an opportunity to explain how they provide information on which future research can be based. No? Next, failure to provide a clear summary of what was learned. In order to be able to discuss how your research fits back into the field of study and possibly the world at large, you need to summarize it briefly and directly. Often, this element of your conclusion is only a few sentences long. But the point is, you need to be able to summarize it in one sentence, just like your hypothesis, so that you can actually organize the study properly. Next, failure to match the objectives of your research. I did tell you last time that your research should follow a one-to-one correlation to your statement of the problem. So that the first one is a describe question. The first objective is an identify the status, or identify the extent and things like that. The second problem is gaps or weaknesses question. So then you have to enumerate gaps, no? So that means that's what you have to be doing also, enumerating. That's why you cannot have a singular gap, but you have to have at least two gaps, no? Or at least two weaknesses or two challenges or what have you. And lastly, suggest interventions. That's your prescribed part, no? So often research objectives change while the research is being carried out. Not in our case, but this is not a problem unless you forget to go back and refine your original objectives in your introduction. As these changes emerge, they must be documented so that they accurately reflect what you are trying to accomplish in your research, not what you thought you might accomplish when you began. So these are the few things you have to pay attention to. Next, resist the urge to apologize. So if you've immersed yourself in studying the research problem, whether you like it or not, you are the expert in that field. You know what is happening there, no? So perhaps even more than your professor, even more than your panel, you are an expert, no? Nevertheless, by the time you have finished writing, you may be having some doubts about what you have produced. Repress those thoughts. Don't undermine your authority by saying like, this is just one approach to examining this problem. There may be others, much better approaches. No, just be confident with your findings and then stick to it. Okay? Lastly, on matters of the summary, conclusion, and recommendations, never ever forget to do a one-to-one correlation. And the one-to-one correlation is based on your statement of the problem. If you have three statements of the problem, those three statements of the problem are also the basis that we need to take into consideration when we are analyzing no? And that's what you have to pay attention to as you move forward. Okay? So let's look at a few of the things that in the report that you need to show. And then based on this one, we'll look at how to move forward. Again, no, after this discussion on the research report, we will go for 10 minutes break. And then after 10 minutes, I will start showing to you again how these are all related to each other using the Canvas Blackboard. Just wait a minute. Okay. So first, background of the study, problem number one, chapter one, I call it the problem. I don't know what your school calls it. It depends, but chapter one is really about the problem in general. Here you identify the problem situation. You describe its pervasiveness in terms of the global, national, regional, and local situation. And the output there is a situation analysis that portrays the problem in the global, national, regional, and local contexts. Here you have to justify justification of what generated interest and motivation on the part of the researcher to focus the study on the problem situation. After the background of the study, you have the statement of the problem. Remember the general statement, state in general what the study intends to describe. find out, discover, explain, and evaluate. And the output there is the general statement of the problem. But when you state the specific logical components of the general statement of the problem, you have the specific statements of the problem. And it's very important that you have a general statement of the problem and the specific statements of the problem. Take note also that in the PAFOS, in Chapter 2, you have 4 hypotheses. Here you have to formulate a tentative answer to each of the specific problems that serve as your research hypothesis. And we did emphasize that you should only utilize a directional hypothesis. No? So here it says this is part of the research process but need not be in the report. But in your case, it's in the report. No? And then significance of the study. These are the other sections we didn't talk about. Identify the possible contribution of the findings of the study to the existing pool of knowledge, but also to identify the benefits that the findings would generate and identify the corresponding beneficiaries. That's why, because you have to identify the corresponding beneficiaries, you have to mention the armed forces of the Philippines and then what are the benefits to them. So this is a narrative of the significance of the study in terms of what it intends to contribute, what benefits would be derived, and who are to be benefited by the study. Scope and delimitation, we said use this in your favor. Here you identify the parameters of the study in terms of respondents, locations, place, time, themes, and subject matter. Here you identify the constraints and the limitations in conducting this kind of study. And that's why the scope and limitation, or the limitation, is a narrative description of the parameters, coverage, limitations, and constraints in the conduct of the study. There's also a section on definition of terms. Here you identify key terms that are used in the study and define these terms operationally. No, remember, operational definitions. That is the meaning of the terms as they are used in the study. So operational definitions only and not dictionary definitions. Okay, please take note of that. Now, Chapter 2, RRL, is the major section. Oh, just a minute. Somebody's knocking on my door. So here in the review of related literature, as we said, you have to cite and discuss the theories that account for the problem under the study. And that's only possible if you do it the outline thematically, no? Support the major contentions of the study and support also the methodology. But actually in the methodology section, you don't have to do that, no? Focus on A and B. From the above, synthesize a theory. That's the reason why there's gap and synthesis, which becomes the basis for the study or which the study intends to pursue or prove. Here, you also do your best to stick with the variables that are involved and also stay with the operationalization of measures. You present the above concept in the form of a paradigm or model, which will become the roadmap, the schematic diagram, in navigating through the different aspects of the research process. In fact, not the research process, but the different aspects of the research concepts. From the above, draw out the assumptions that would become the basis for critical interrogation. And remember, the assumptions is part of your Chapter 2. So the output is a discussion of the merits of the theories that explain, support, and validate the problem, that provide a guide to the intended methodology. Here also you have the identification and discussion of the dimensions, concept and dimensions used in the study and the relations. There's also a schematic representation of the interrelationship of the variables. That's your conceptual framework or paradigm. And then here you also have a set of assumptions that serves as the basis for asking specific questions on the problem. For Chapter 3, research design, there you describe the design used in the study, justify also why this design is most appropriate. This is a narrative description of the research design. The locale of the study and the sample of the study is the population of the study in this sense, no? In the locale, of course, you describe the place where the research is conducted, and as I suggested, you always put a figure map where this locale is. But in the population of the study, here you describe the universe or sample and the sampling design used. So come up with a profile of respondents according to the attributes relevant to the study. And remember, that's the sampling part. And as I said, you only gather the profile after you have distributed the questionnaire. But once the questionnaire is gathered, you do not put the profile in chapter 3. In chapter 4, you put it in chapter 3. Data gathering tools identify and describe the instrument used to gather data in terms of its origin, how it was generated, and how it was validated. That's your questionnaire and interview guide questions. Data gathering procedure describe the step-by-step action in gathering the data, and data analysis per statement of the problem describe the data processing protocols employed, identify and describe the statistical tools used in the study or the preset criteria or the rubrics just in case you will use any of those. Chapter 4 is the presentation, analysis, and interpretation of data. You do not do this one. Some others will they will present the data to problem 1, 2, 3 first, and then analyze problem 1, 2, 3 before interpret 1, 2, 3. Please don't do that. Stick with the outline. No? Problem number 1, present, analyze, interpret. Problem number 2, present, analyze, interpret. Problem number 3, present, analyze, interpret. So in the presentation, regardless of whether it's quantitative or qualitative, it will change. No? Data processing and management. In the presentation, you have to collate, tabulate, compute, and organize data. Here you have to summarize results and describe in narrative, tabular, or graphical form. No, more often than not, in a Commandant's paper, we use the tabular, not the graphical form. When we present the findings of the study, we can use the graphical form. But when we are presenting the findings of the study, we use the tabular form. Okay, do not forget that. So tabular, graphical, narrative presentation of summarized data, that's the descriptive phase. Summarize trends, patterns, compute indices. This is where you analyze the data. And then interpretation, draw out inferences, meanings, and implications from analyzed data. Here you corroborate analysis through internal and external cross-referencing. No? That's very important. No? Of course, in a qualitative research, triangulation happens first. That's the internal cross-referencing. But in the analysis part and interpretation part, you go back to the RRL. That's the external cross-referencing. Okay, these are very important for you to know. And then lastly, chapter 5, summary, conclusions, recommendations. Here you summarize the whole study, generalize from results, and recommend action steps. Here, summary of findings is very important. Conclusions derives from findings is also very important. And doable recommendations derive from the conclusion. And this is done for each of the statement of the problem. And I hope you do not forget that, each of the statement of the problem. This is, with that, I close my first pre-recorded lecture, which I'm doing today, evening of, anong araw ngayon? August 19, Monday, so that you can see it very early tomorrow because I decided to go on duty. And then there's another pre-recorded lecture on the summary, diagrammic, schematic diagram of everything again. But I will do that if not tonight, tomorrow, very early tomorrow, so that you have something to watch while I'm on duty. And then I'll see you in the afternoon. If you have questions, please do not hesitate to message me. If not, thank you very much for your attention. I now stop share and wish everyone a good day. Thank you.